Imagine for a second that you've just met someone new. The chemistry is electric. The conversation flows like you've known them for a lifetime. And for the first time in years, you feel that spark again. But fast forward 6 months, and suddenly, you're staring at the same ceiling, crying the same tears, and having the exact same arguments you had with your ex. It's the same story, just a different face. If you feel like you're trapped in a revolving door of toxic relationships, I have a hard truth for you that most people are too afraid to say. This isn't just bad luck. It's not a string of coincidences, and it's not that all the good ones are taken. Your brain is actually hardwired to crave this chaos. There is a psychological glitch in your operating system that is bypassing healthy partners and steering you directly into the arms of people who drain your soul. Today, we are going to look at why your mind secretly prefers a toxic disaster over a healthy connection, and, more importantly, how you can finally reset the script we like to think of ourselves as logical beings who want happiness. But the subconscious mind doesn't care about your happiness. It cares about what is familiar. To your brain, familiar equals safe, even if that familiarity is actually incredibly painful. This is where the concept of the internal blueprint comes in. Think of your subconscious as a sophisticated GPS. If your earliest experiences with love, whether from parents, caregivers, or your first major heartbreak, were tied to inconsistency, neglect, or having to earn affection, then your GPS has been programmed to recognize those traits as the definition of love. When you meet someone who is actually stable, kind, and emotionally available, your brain doesn't see healthy. It sees foreign. It sees boring. You might even tell your friends, they're great on paper, but there's just no spark. That spark you're looking for? In many cases, it's actually just your nervous system recognizing a familiar brand of anxiety. This leads us to the silent killer of your peace: low boundaries. Most people think having low boundaries means you're just a nice person or a people pleaser. But in the world of psychology, low boundaries are a high-frequency signal to every manipulator in the room. It's like walking around with a sign that says open for exploitation. When you don't have a firm sense of where you end and another person begins, you become a magnet for people who are looking for a host. You aren't just attracting toxic people. You are auditioning them, and because your boundaries are porous, the toxic ones are the only ones passing the test. You tolerate the small red flags, the late texts, the subtle negging, the broken promises, because deep down, your blueprint tells you that this is what you deserve. You've mistaken the feeling of walking on eggshells for the thrill of a passionate romance. The most dangerous part of this glitch is how we confuse chaos for chemistry. High-conflict relationships create massive spikes in cortisol and adrenaline. When things are good, the relief feels like a drug. This roller coaster creates an intense emotional bond that a stable, healthy person simply cannot compete with. A healthy partner provides a steady, warm glow, but a toxic partner provides a wildfire. Your brain has become a sensation seeker, addicted to the highs and lows, and until you realize that chemistry is often just your trauma recognizing their trauma, you will keep hitting repeat on the same nightmare. We have to stop viewing the toxic partner as the problem and start viewing them as a symptom of a blueprint that needs to be completely rewritten. If you've ever wondered why it's so incredibly hard to walk away from someone who treats you like an auction, the answer isn't in your heart, it's in your brain's pharmacy. We need to talk about validation addiction. In a healthy relationship, your self-worth is a steady baseline. But in a toxic one, your self-worth is held hostage. You become addicted to the reconciliation phase, that golden moment after a blowout fight or a week of the silent treatment, where they finally pull you close and tell you they love you. In that moment, your brain flooded with a massive surge of dopamine and oxytocin. It's a chemical reward for enduring the pain. This creates an intermittent reinforcement schedule, which is the exact same psychological mechanism that makes slot machines so addictive. You aren't staying for the person. You're staying for the payout of feeling chosen again. You've become a gambler, betting your mental health on the hope that this time, the good version of them will stay forever. This is where we transition into what many call the karma repetition cycle. Now, forget the mystical definition of karma for a second. In psychological terms, karma is simply the subconscious mind's drive to master an old wound. If you had a parent whose love was conditional, or a past partner who made you feel not enough, your brain will actually seek out new partners who mirror those exact same traits. Why? Because your ego is trying to win the game this time. It thinks, if I can finally make this cold, unavailable person love me, and I'll finally be worthy. You aren't falling in love with these people. You're attempting to rewrite a childhood trauma with a different actor in the lead role. But here is the glitch. You cannot heal a wound by reopening it with the same knife. The universe or your own subconscious will keep handing you the same test, wrapped in a different physical package, until you finally decide to choose yourself over the win. We have to address the mirror effect. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are currently programmed to tolerate. If you are operating from a place of scarcity mindset, believing that deep, stable love is rare, or that you have to work twice as hard to be kept, you will naturally gravitate toward people who require that much labor. You become a fixer or a healer because it gives you a sense of control. If you can fix them, they'll never leave you, right? Wrong. By focusing all your energy on fixing a toxic partner, you are successfully avoiding the terrifying work of looking at your own reflection. You are using their chaos as a distraction from your own internal void. This is the ultimate validation addiction, needing to be the hero in a story that was designed to make you the victim. Breaking this cycle requires you to acknowledge that the high you feel in these relationships is actually a warning sign. That intense, overwhelming soulmate feeling within 48 hours of meeting someone, that's often just your nervous system hitting the panic button. In the US dating culture especially, we've romanticized the chase and the struggle. But high-level psychological maturity tells us that true connection is built on consistency, not intensity. Until you break your addiction to the external validation of a person who is fundamentally incapable of giving it, you will remain a passenger. In your own life, you have to stop asking, why are they doing this to me? and start asking, why am I making space for this? It's time to stop being the host for someone else's toxicity and start becoming the architect of your own peace. The cycle doesn't end when the toxic person leaves. It ends when you no longer recognize them as an option. This is the conscious break, and it requires a complete overhaul of your internal navigation system. Most people wait for the other person to change or for a closure conversation that will never come. But real closure is an internal job. It starts with identifying red flagged euphoria. You have to train yourself to realize that when you feel that overwhelming, obsessive spark with someone you barely know, it's not a sign from the universe. It's a siren from your nervous system. In the US dating landscape, we've been conditioned to chase the high, but the reset happens when you start prioritizing peace over intensity. You have to become allergic to inconsistency. If someone is hot and cold, you don't try to warm them up. You simply realize they aren't your temperature and move on. Resetting your brain means raising your baseline of tolerance. Think of it like this. If you're used to drinking salt water, you'll never know how thirsty you actually are. You have to stop sampling the toxicity just to see if it's changed. This is where you implement the standard shift. Instead of asking, do they like me? You must start asking, how do I feel when I'm around them? Do you feel expansive, safe, and heard? Or do you feel small, anxious, and like you're auditioning for a role you didn't sign up for? By shifting the focus back to your own internal state, you strip the toxic partner of their power. You are no longer a satellite orbiting their chaos. You are the sun of your own system. The final step in changing your karma is realizing that you are the common denominator in your life. This isn't about blame, it's about power. If you are the one choosing the pattern, you are the only one who can break it. When you finally raise your standards, the toxic people don't disappear from the world, but they do disappear from your radar. They become invisible to you because they no longer have the frequency required to get through your boundaries. You start to find boring people, attractive people who text back, people who show up, and people who don't require you to lose yourself to keep them. This is the ultimate psychological reset. You aren't just changing who you date. You are changing who you are. The moment you decide that you are no longer a home for someone else's dysfunction is the moment your new life begins.